GM engineers.
Bada bing, bada boom. Just beat it, you know, we're all used to it.
If it will make it there. It is like a quarter mile, so the 2G might break down.
Okay.
You're fucked. But we're gonna go ahead and pop that little nut on the...
Fuck using a socket, fuck using any power tools.
Safety is #1 priority.
Okay, crazy Russian hacker.
What's up, boys? Today in the shop we have this 2024 Denali Ultimate. It's obviously pretty stock right now, so we're gonna go ahead and level it, throw some wheels and tires on it, and show you guys the end result. Now, a lot of shops will charge you 10 labor hours to do a simple level kit. We're gonna do Cognito control arms, Cognito leveling keys, and then Fox shocks front and rear. We're also gonna do new wheels, new tires, and get everything back to the customer within about 3 hours. So let's go ahead and knock it out real quick. So now that we have this thing in the air, Ricky's gonna go ahead and pop these wheels off. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the leveling kit, the shocks, everything that we need, and then we will go ahead and get this thing started. This is always my favorite look because from the front it looks like this thing's absolutely levitating. Obviously you have the jack stands in a safe location under the front of the frame. This is the easiest way to work on this because if you jack it up using the front cross member, they'll just be in your way when you're working on it. So a jack stand under the front of the frame is by far the best place to do this if you're doing it in a garage. Okay, so like I said, we're doing Cognito kit. It's gonna be control arms and keys and then Fox shocks front and rear. So we'll go ahead and unbox this and get started. Cognito. The rear shocks on these trucks are extremely easy. They're eyelet to eyelet shocks, so at the top there's a bolt that goes through, undo it, put this one in. Same thing with the bottom, there's a bolt that goes through the eyelet. It's extremely simple. I recommend doing the top first so that when you have to compress this to put the bottom bolt in, that you're pushing rather than trying to pull it to get the top one in. That's just how I like to do it, but again, either way works fine. So that's what I recommend doing first. You can do this before you jack the truck up, but just replace those rear shocks. Again, probably takes about 5 minutes. This is a Cognito leveling key. The way that these work is, as you'll notice when you take the stock ones out, these sit at just a little bit of a different angle than the stock ones, which allows these to rotate the torsion bars to lift the front of the vehicle up while still maintaining the availability for that torsion bar to rotate, which allows for good ride quality. What happens if you don't use one of these and you just crank the keys is you'll eliminate the availability of that torsion bar to move. You'll kind of bind it up, which would hinder your ride quality. So if you want a good ride quality out of a level, make sure that you change the keys. Even if they look very similar to the stock, they do have a little bit of a different angle, so you need to change these. I've seen a ton of videos on YouTube of people trying to change these torsion keys with a C-clamp or some kind of makeshift do-it-yourself tool. I will say it will make your install go way smoother and much, much faster if you just go and invest in a torsion bar unloading tool. You can even rent one from like AutoZone or O'Reilly's or whatever else you might have near you. They're pretty inexpensive. As for the front, there's really only two components that we need to change. We need to change the control arms, the upper control arms. So other than the control arm, the only other thing that gets changed in the front is this shock. The ones for the front have the little fork on the bottom and the T on the top. They do come with new hardware, which is super nice, but they're super easy to install, especially once you have that control arm out. And you'll see how we install it as well. So now that we've gone over the contents of the kit, we're gonna go ahead and install. Like I said, what we usually do is we start in the rear of the vehicle. We do those two shocks in the rear. Then I'll move forward. I'll do the torsion keys. So what I like to do with the torsion keys to make this job much, much easier is I'll take the stock ones out and I'll put the new ones in, but I won't put the bolt that holds them in place in so that they have full range of motion. The reason I do that at first is because it allows that lower control arm to move super freely, which just is gonna allow for better maneuverability while you're trying to work on this front end, because they do get a little bit stiff if you put the new torsion keys in right away. So once I have the new torsion keys in, and again, I leave them loose, but once I have them in, we'll move to the front. Really all there is to it is we're gonna take the upper control arm and the shock out. We'll let this hang, but make sure that you keep it either supported or you're moving the brake lines, ABS sensors, things that could get bound up, you wanna make sure you're careful with. Once we do that, we do have to cut one piece of the perch to make sure that that new control arm has full range of motion, and I'll show you exactly where to cut on that. Once that's all removed, really it's as simple as slapping in the new shock and the new control arm, making sure that your alignment pins stay close to center, and then getting the wheel put back on.
All right, let me show y'all what I'm doing right now. There's these two nuts up here. I can't really show y'all good. There's not good lighting down here either. And there's these little two bolts up top. I already did on the passenger side, so I'm gonna do it here on the driver's side. I was tackling this first because this is usually the part I hate the most, but these are actually coming off fairly easy. Oh. On the driver's side, I don't know if y'all can see me. On the driver's side, they have like little connectors on top of the actual like studs themselves of the shocks. You gotta take those off first. I'm not gonna lie, those are honestly probably a bigger pain in the butt than the bolts themselves. There we go. That's what they look like. Get the next one. All you need is a wrench. Fuck using a socket. Fuck using any power tools. It takes a little bit longer, but trust me, it's gonna help you out in the long run.
Alright, so real quick, I'm going to show you guys how to install these. I know the view from there is probably not going to be the best, but hopefully you guys get the gist of it. These things are super easy to install. They have a little divot right here. There's two of them. I don't know that you'll be able to see real well. This one is where the bolt goes, and that pushes it up to determine the position of the key. And this one here, this little rounded one, is what your torsion bar unloading tool will fit into. So it fits into it like that. You press it up. It allows the tension to come off that bolt. Take the bolt out. And then before you undo this, you got to slide the little lock out. And I'll show you what that little lock looks like. But once you slide that out, then this will be able to drop down and be able to pull the bar out. And then you'll replace it with this new one. Take those torsion bar bolts, the ones that bolt in from the bottom, out before you start unloading the tool. The bolts that go into the bottom of the torsion bars are 21 millimeters. Sometimes you'll get lucky and that torsion bar will stay up. You don't even have to use your unloading tool. So what you have to do is take this bolt out, again 21 millimeter, and then sometimes the pressure will push down on this. So you use that torsion bar unloading tool to take the pressure off of this, slide it out, and make sure you use a lot of caution because that will break your fingers off if the torsion bar unloading tool comes out. So just make sure you're really safe. Safety is #1 priority.
Okay, crazy Russian hacker.
So now that I've beat those pulls off, they should come out easy. Just be careful because as you're rotating them, the keys will drop out and they're extremely heavy and they do hurt if you drop them on your chest. So I usually try to steer clear so they can just drop onto the ground. So again, you can see the color on this and just the overall condition of this thing. That's why they get stuck in there. So the way that I like to do this, again, you have to make sure that the little indents are facing down so that your bolts and your torsion bar unloading tool can go into this. But the way that I like to do this is I like to go ahead and put these loosely in the truck so that all I have to do once I'm done with the front end is slide those locks in and bolt them back up.
So as Ricky showed you guys, the tops of those shocks unbolt super easy. Just go ahead and get in there. On the 17 to 19 trucks, the process is exactly the same. They can be a little bit more difficult because the fender liner come down a little bit. But if you stick your wrench in there, you should still be able to get them off. So the next thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is separate the upper control arm from the actual hub assembly. Can't really remember off the top of my head. It's either a 15, 17, or 19 millimeter. I'll let you know here in a second. But we're gonna go ahead and pop that little nut on the... We're gonna go ahead and take that nut off that's on the bottom of the upper control arm. And then you might have to hit it with the hammer a few times. Just make sure you support the bottom of the hub. That way you don't like rip any brake lines or ABS sensors or anything. That's just gonna cause a headache for you if you're doing this install.
So just to give you guys a better look in here, these two bolts on top of that shock are what we took off already. There's one bolt on the bottom of the shock as well that goes through the lower control arm. We're gonna take that off next, and then we're gonna take this upper control arm off, which will separate the upper control arm from the hub. That hub will dangle, so again, just make sure that you keep that steady. One thing I do that makes this job much easier when you're putting it back together is I take the Sharpie and mark where the pins come through on these alignment tools over here on each side. There's 2 on each side of the control arm, so 4 pieces total that you'll have to mark. What that does is just allows you to get similar to stock on the control arm alignment, which definitely helps with getting everything to line up right when you're done.
Just like that, super duper easy. Just grab your shock, comes out just like that. Bada bing, bada boom. Where'd that nut go? I'm gonna go do the same thing real quick on the other side, then we'll come back and show y'all what to do next. To take off this control arm, obviously this whole, I don't even know what to call this whole hub of shit is gonna fall down and you don't wanna break your brake lines. Anyways, we jack it up to have a little bit of tension here so that when we unbolt this, it doesn't just completely fall to the ground and break and make us wanna die. Alright, now that yapper is gone, it is gonna be a 18. So you just get under there, boom. Take that little nut off. This one was caked. Just look how much stuff was left inside of my bit. Ew! Now that we got that off, as you can see, it doesn't immediately come off. It's still in there. You gotta grab a hammer and just beat it. You know, we're all used to it. Sometimes. I don't know. Let me go grab the big guns real quick. I'm back, and I came with reinforcements. We got the snap-on ball penis hammer. There we go, bruh. That's what I'm talking about. And see, since we got that under there, it's not gonna fall, and everything is not gonna break and die. Now that that has been freed, our next step is going to be taking out the control arm bolts that are back here. All right, now to take off the back bolts of the control arm, you're gonna need an adjustable wrench and a, what was this? A 20-foot, damn, big old bit. And then boom, you just push this right out, and there you go. Also keep these bolts and nuts together. And as you can see, where we marked it off is gonna stay there, so now we know exactly where to put the peg.
GM engineers.
And just like that, you got your control arm out. Super easy, if it wasn't a GM.
So as you can see right now, we have no shock in here, no control arm. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually put the control arm first. You might be tempted to throw the shock in there while it's super easy and accessible, but the hard thing about that is you won't be able to get this bolt back through. So make sure that you do your control arm first, put it in there loosely, get your bolt and nut started, but leave them loose so you can move it up and down, and then throw that shock in there, and then bolt that control arm back to the hub, and then you'll be good to go. Now, before we throw the new control arm in, we do have to trim this perch up a little bit. Because of the different angle on the new control arm, you'll rub on this. So what we do is we're gonna take a Sawzall, you can also take a grinder. Just make sure you're really careful with these wires. I like to unbolt this just to make sure that I'm not touching anything. So I'll unbolt this and just move the whole assembly over a little bit. And then we'll just cut this portion of the perch off. There's exact measurements in the kit, but honestly I've found if you just use this edge as like a rough guideline, you'll be able to make sure that you clear it. We're gonna bolt this back on and get our control arm installed. So now that we have the control arm perch taken care of, we're gonna go ahead and install our new control arm. Pretty easy, just make sure you take out your cotter pin, your castle nut, and your washer. Make sure you don't lose them. And then all we have to do is just go ahead and throw that in there. And then what you'll do is you'll grab your control arm bolts, feed them through the exact same way that they came out. For now, just get the bolts in there loosely. We can perfect the fitment once we get everything else in there. Now, if you can, using your hand or an open-end wrench, adjust the one that has the bolt, not the nut, to make sure that you line up close, if not perfect, to your Sharpie marks. So now that we have every single thing bolted in place other than this hub, it's super easy. All we're gonna do is go ahead, push it down in there, and then Ricky's gonna go up on the jack so that we get this exposed a little bit. So from there, you'll take your washer, your castle nut, and then your cotter pin and put them on in that order. Now, just real quick, I wanted to show you guys just one more quick run through of just everything you wanna make sure that you tighten down. So make sure you tighten down your shock nuts on top, and then the one on the bottom, your control arms, and then your castle nut here. And make sure you don't forget to put this back onto your perch. And once you get everything else tight, make sure that you get the other side done in the exact same fashion, and then tighten up your torsion bars, and you are done. So we got Ricky over here finishing up on the other side. While he finishes up, I'm gonna go ahead and change the tires for him. He brought them in, like I said, the truck was completely stock, so this is what he was rocking before, and he ended up going with an 18-inch arena wheel, so we'll show you that now. These are the 18-inch 8-on-180 arena wheels that he decided to go with. These things should look really nice on that truck. Now these are the tires we're gonna pair up with those 18x9s. These are 35, 12, 5, 18. With the offset of these wheels being 0 and the level kit on that truck, he should be able to clear these no problem. So we're gonna go ahead and take these tires here, we're gonna slap them on to these wheels, go ahead and put them on the truck and show you guys how it looks.
Alright, so Aiden sucks at remembering the camera. So we're putting on the front wheels right now. Let's go see how they look.
Alright guys, so we are out in the sun. This thing looks honestly super pimp. The level looks nice, it's very even front to back, and the wheels fit perfectly. They stuff out the wheel wells very well, they don't look empty.
So that's always a huge plus. I don't like on these GMs, it seems like a lot of fitments that fit without rubbing, they look like a little bit empty in the wheel well. But these actually fit really, really nicely. And the positive is, I think this truck's been trimmed a little bit down there on the valence, but the back plastic definitely hasn't, the fender well hasn't been touched, and you get full lock to lock on this thing with no rubbing at all. So it honestly looks magnificent. It's gonna ride good. Customer's gonna be super happy with it. I can't wait to see his reaction about it. But honestly, all in all, 10 out of 10 install. Like I said, couple hours, wheels and tires look good, level kit looks good. If you need your truck customized, you know where to find us. 801-899-9289.